مشيئة قدرات أول مسائل شرف سلطان ملك أيامها.
Like drops we flow and lose ourselves in the ocean of God's love, surrendering our will in His and uniting all as one. I in He and He in thee. Let's join together and see one God, one religion, one humanity.
Baha Jalal Jamal Azamat Nur Rahmat Kalimat Kamal Asma Izzat مشيئة قدرات أول مسائل شرف سلطان ملك أيامها.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope by the time we get through this series, everybody knows all the names of the months. Anyway, we are so happy to be here for the Qudrat episode of the Wondrous Baha'i Calendar podcast. I am Tamara Bond Williams, joined also by Nancy Nelson Ewing and Cora Palazzolo. Today is Ramat, which is the 6th day of Qudrat, 181 in the Baha'i era. That is to say, mercy of power. Interesting juxtaposition. Also, it's November 7th in the Gregorian calendar. And throughout this program, as per always, you will hear us using the Arabic and the English names for the calendar and for the months, days, and weekdays within the calendar. This is intentional on our part. Our goal is to help us grow in awareness, understanding, and accessibility. And our purpose for this gathering is to explore the many, many significances of the Baha'i calendar and to share our ideas, our thoughts, and to learn from you as well, how we can go about implementing the calendar for daily living. So we've just had our welcome. We're going to open up with a meditation that Nancy will lead us in, following there with our prayers of the month, the day, and the weekday. Just in case anybody doesn't know, each of the elements of a day, that is the month, the day, and the weekday, have divine attributes as names within the Baha'i calendar. And we'll go over some calendar concepts with Cora. Today's spiritual attributes, I will be carrying that part. All about rubies with Nancy, and then we will have our birthday shout out. And so I left that open. Okay, we're not going to talk about the divine attribute of knowledge. We're going to talk about the divine attribute of power. And we will go from there into our arts social. As a reminder, the arts social is not going to be recorded. So this is an open and safe space to share your creativity, your ideas, and your thoughts. And with that, I will stop sharing and invite Nancy to guide us into a meditation.
Thank you so much, Tamara, and welcome everyone to our podcast on the Badi calendar in the month of power. And I would just like to welcome everyone and thank you for being here. Right now, we're going to ask everyone to please just find a comfortable position where you're seated. And when you find that position, just close your eyes and just sit in that space as we gather all of our collective spirits and energy together and really reach out and greet each other on that spiritual plane. Let us get ready to share and be present together. I'm going to ask us to give your shoulders a nice backward roll, just lifting them up to your ears and then rolling them backwards and then just letting them gently drop. Hands to your side or on your thighs, whatever is comfortable for you. And then just allow your head to slowly drop forward. Let it hang there for just a moment. Release the tension in the back of your neck. And then roll your head to your right, to your ear, almost touching your shoulder. And then back. Let it just kind of hang back there for a second. Nice and gently over to your left side. And then back down front. And if it's comfortable for you to stay there hanging your head forward, then do so. If not, just put your head in a comfortable position. And now we're going to ask you to inhale deeply, slowly through your nose and exhale through your mouth. And as you exhale, allow your body to sink deeper into your comfortable position. And it's perfectly fine to slouch and just hang. Just let gravity take over. On the next inhale, we're going to ask that you focus and feel the life-giving power of your breath. The breath that brings the life-giving healing energy of oxygen into your body and expels the carbon dioxide, and allow that breath to seek out that toxic element, all of the toxic elements. Let it seek and find those negative thoughts, any despair, any pain that you might have in your back, head, knees, your neck, your hip, any discomfort at all, and let it carry it all away from your body. And again, at your own pace, deeply inhale through your nose. Focus and feel the power of your breath soaring through the miracle that is your body, ushering in life, positive energy, and joy, and relieving it of toxic chemicals, negative energy, sadness, worry, regrets, pain. Let's do that a few times on your own, inhaling, exhaling, and letting your breath do all of those wonderful things. And now let's take one last powerful breath. And on the exhale, open your eyes, feeling renewed, refreshed, empowered, and filled with gratitude. Thank you.
O God, thou seest my weakness, lowliness, and humility before thy creatures. Nevertheless, I have trusted in thee and have arisen in the promotion of thy teachings among thy strong servants, relying on thy power and might. O Lord, I am a broken-winged bird, and desire to soar in thy limitless space. How is it possible for me to do this, save through thy providence and grace, thy confirmation and assistance? O Lord, have pity on my weakness and strengthen me with thy power. O Lord, have pity on my impotence and assist me with thy might and majesty. O Lord, should the breath of the Holy Spirit confirm the weakest of creatures, he would attain all to which he aspireth and would possess anything he desireth. Indeed, thou hast assisted thy servants in the past, and though they were the weakest of thy creatures, the lowliest of thy servants, and the most insignificant of those who lived upon the earth, through thy sanction and potency, they took precedence over the most glorious of thy people and the most noble of mankind. Whereas formerly they were as moths, they became as royal falcons. And whereas before they were as brooks, they became as seas through thy bestowal and thy mercy. They became, through thy most great favors, stars shining on the horizon of guidance, birds singing in the rose gardens of immortality, lions roaring in the forests of knowledge and wisdom, and whales swimming in the ocean of life. Verily, thou art the clement, the powerful, the mighty, and the most merciful of the merciful. Abdu'l-Baha.
O compassionate God, thanks be to thee, for thou hast awakened and made me conscious. Thou hast given me a seeing eye and favored me with a hearing ear, hast led me to thy kingdom and guided me to thy path. Thou hast shown me the right way and caused me to enter the ark of deliverance. O God, keep me steadfast and make me firm and staunch. Protect me from violent test and preserve and shelter me in the strongly fortified fortress of thy covenant and testament. Thou art the powerful. Thou art the seeing. Thou art the hearing. O thou, the compassionate God, bestow upon me a heart which, like unto glass, may be illumined with the light of thy love, and confer upon me thoughts which may change this world into a rose garden through the outpourings of heavenly grace. Thou art the compassionate, the merciful. Thou art the great, beneficent God.
In the name of thy Lord, the Creator, the Sovereign, the all-sufficing, the most exalted, he whose help is implored by all men. Say, O my God, O thou who art the maker of the heavens and of the earth, O Lord of the kingdom, thou well knowest the secrets of my heart, while thy being is inscrutable to all save thyself. Thou seest whatsoever is of me, while no one else can do this save thee. Vouchsafe unto me through thy grace what will enable me to dispense with all except thee, and destine for me that which will make me independent of everyone else beside thee. Grant that I may reap the benefit of my life in this world and in the next. Open to my face the portals of thy grace, and graciously confer upon me thy tender mercy. and bestows. O thou who art the Lord of grace abounding, let thy celestial aid surround those who love thee, and bestow upon us the gifts and the bounties thou dost possess. Be thou sufficient unto us of all things. Forgive us our sins and have mercy upon us. Thou art our Lord and the Lord of all created things. No one else do we invoke but thee, and naught do we beseech but thy favors. Thou art the Lord of bounty and grace, invincible in thy power, and the most skillful in thy designs. No God is there but thee, the all-possessing, the most exalted. Confer thy blessings, O my Lord, upon the messengers, the holy ones, and the righteous. Verily thou art God, the purest, the all-compelling, the Bob. And so welcome, 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 welcome. Everyone, Alice, welcome. It's good to see you here.
Hello. I'm here for a short while, but I'm
Okay,
here.
we're gonna accept that you're here for a short while. We're gonna give a little bit of an apology, of course. We got notices out late, so this is gonna be a cozy conversation. Of course, it will be broadcast after the fact. Also apologies for the last one because there were technical difficulties, so you're gonna get 2 for 1. But with that, I would love to invite Cora to the stage, as they say, to have a conversation about some calendar concepts.
Calendar concepts, yes.
It's time for
So here, oh no, this has to work. I practiced this so it would work. Here we have the calendar clock. And so I'm
You might have to lose the background for it to work.
Yeah, got some
okay.
blue.
I'll quickly do that.
I love it though.
Mhm.
Okay, here we go.
Yes. there it is.
Calendar
Look how
clock
gorgeous it is.
time. So feast always begins on the day of splendor. That's the first day of the month. And here we are all the way to the 13th month, Qudrat and power. What I wanted to mention about this is you notice the blue band. This is to represent the water of divine unity. And here in the month of power, it's the last month in the element of water. From here, we go up into the element of earth. And Tamara's going to talk with us more about the elements, but I just wanted to point that out. One thing that is lovely to think about in our Baha'i celebrations is the quality of water and flowing and being grateful for water in our lives. One of the spiritual practices is to actually say a prayer into the glass of water as you're drinking it. Praise be to God, or thank you, God, or whatever, or a healing prayer even. You're taking the spiritual quality of power and water into your body as you're saying the prayer. And that's just another way of getting the elements into our body in a conscious way. So this is our calendar clock, and then the card, and I will read it to you. We have the mercy of power. And it's a little like that prayer that I said about them changing gnat into a bird into a royal falcon, drops of water into rivers and seas. The quote is, "I unfold the drooping wings of every broken bird and set it on its flight." And the meditation is, sometimes when we're feeling stuck in powerlessness, it takes a good dose of mercy to get free. This short verse, the quote above, offers a visual representation of how the most merciful heals our brokenness. Consider closing your eyes to embody the broken bird. What do you feel? Once freed, what do you most want to do? And this is just a little meditation that I sometimes do when I'm saying my prayers, or if I'm feeling really, just needing support, if I'm feeling anxious or worried or upset, to consider myself feeling like that, the broken winged bird, and imagining Baha'u'llah, or the divine, however you conceive the divine, unfolding my wings so I can go on my flight. It just is a good reset, right? So that's my little calendar concepts for today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cora. We'll have the conversation later. I hope I remember, but gosh, that was so on target for a lot of how I think about this idea of power. But let's get into the spiritual principles of today. And so once again, I'm happy to share the cards that display the principles in each aspect, one at a time. And so, of course, we're right now in the month of Qudrat. And as Cora mentioned, the month of Qudrat is actually the last of the months of the water months. The water months are called the months of the exaltation of unity. So we'll talk a little bit about that. The quote here says, "O befriended stranger, the candle of thine heart is lighted by the hand of my power. Quench it not with the contrary winds of self and passion. The healer of all thine ills is remembrance of me. Forget it not. Make my love thy treasure and cherish it, even as thy very sight and life." And that's, of course, from the hidden words of Baha'u'llah. And then I have a second quote here. It says, "Man has a sacred power beyond the confines of the senses. The power of the rational mind is the power of the soul over the senses," which is a really wonderful reflection for us as we contemplate power. Some additional meanings found in the Baha'i writings for Qudrat are might, authority, dominion, celestial might, omnipotence, transcendent power, indomitable strength, all-pervading power, ascendancy, and divine power. So all of those are how the word Qudrat has been translated throughout the Baha'i writings. So for today, as mentioned, we are in the month of Qudrat, but today is also the day of mercy, or Ramat. It is the 6th day of the Baha'i month. This quote is, again, I've got the hidden words floating up here. It says, "O son of being, thou art my lamp, and my light is in thee. Get thou from it, get thou from it thy radiance, and seek none other than me. For I have created thee rich, and have bountifully shed my favor upon thee." Okay, so that's one of the quotes there on the month of Vermont. We talked about this before. I want to just mention it again. It is, although it is Thursday, still in the Gregorian calendar, the sun has gone down here on the East Coast, possibly already down in the West Coast as well, but it's definitely down here. And so we are now on the Friday, according to the Badi calendar. And this is also true of several religious calendars. So if ever you're in a Jewish store and you notice that they've shut down at 4 o'clock, it's because they're getting home before sunset when it's the next day. So that's just a fun thing to know. The Badi calendar works the same way. Friday is Istiqlal, which means independence. And so we'll have an opportunity to talk about that some more. And you'll also notice that we have 3 colors here. The 3 colors are green for water, red for earth, because Istiqlal is in the element of earth, and yellow for mercy, because the 6th day as well as the 6th month are in the quality of air. So we have water, earth, and air. And I'm going to go one more step further. Okay, so as was mentioned, the months of exaltation of unity are closing, and we are going to begin the months of magnification in our next episode. But I thought before we leave this period, I'd take this little opportunity to share with you the lyrics of the song that you've been hearing at the start of every program. Of course, the song chants out the names of the month, but then each verse in the song is based on the quality, the attribute that we're in, which is right now the element, I should say, which is water. And so the song says, like drops, we flow and lose ourselves in the ocean of God's love, surrendering our will in his and uniting all as one. I in he in thee. Let's join together and see one God, one religion, one humanity. Next time when we come together, which will be towards the end of November, we will be singing about Earth. So the song will be slightly different. With that, happy to turn the tables over to Nancy.
Oh, and I am going to actually reiterate. Thank you, first of all, Tamara and Cora, for those wonderful presentations. I love the whole drinking water and prayer and combining all of that together. You know, every layer helps, right? Every layer helps. And as Tamara mentioned, or did you mention that the element for the month is
Element for the month is water.
stone? I'm sorry.
The stone, oh no, you're thinking of the element for today,
Right.
which is we're in the element of earth, and the stone is ruby, like that ruby beautiful lipstick that you got.
Uh, I'm wearing as much ruby as I can to represent, and also my birthstone. Um, So always happy to talk about the ruby. Can everyone see?
Yes.
We put it in slideshow mode. Let's see, how come it's not going into slideshow mode? That's interesting. Oh, here we go. Okay. So like I said, it's really, I'm just going to reiterate what I shared last time, because the ruby is still a ruby and it still has all of the elements and that it had last time we shared, which is emotional healing and balance. It is believed by the ancients, really, from generations and eras in the past, that the ruby stone possesses the healing power to heal emotional wounds and bring a sense of balance to life. The ruby gemstone, as again ancients believe, the benefits of wearing a ruby stone can boost energy levels and invigorate the body. The vibrant red color stimulates the heart chakra, promoting a sense of strength and vitality in the human body. The ultimate advantage of ruby stone is that it helps overcome lethargy and procrastination. We can all use a little of that, and brings about a renewed sense of vigor, providing a fresh start all over. And some people might think, things like stones or, these inanimate things, and how can they do all of that stuff? Sounds a little woo-woo, but everything has a vibration, and our body vibrates with these things, whether we can feel it or sense it or see it or not. And so I do believe and trust that these stones, just like water, just like all of the elements that surround us on this earth, have these special kinds of connections with us as human beings, because we carry everything that is in this universe in our bodies. Um, so because the ruby's hue is close to the color of blood, which carries oxygen to all parts of the body, it is believed that the stone has the power to align and lend energy to the body. And in various cultures, the ruby gemstone is seen as a symbol of wealth and prosperity. It is believed that owning or wearing a ruby stone can attract abundance into one's life. And that to me is just about the power of belief, right? If you believe it can happen, you put that ruby on and it happens, then yeah, I'm gonna wear some more rubies. Meaningful thought about ruby stone is deeply rooted in historical context, where aristocrats and rulers adorn themselves with rubies to signify their opulence. And the ruby stones have long been associated with love and passion. In addition to their visual allure, wait, I'm gonna jump ahead. I was trying to move this. I'm gonna move you guys over. Isn't that pretty? That's such a beautiful piece.
Yes.
In addition to their visual allure, ruby stone benefits encompass the ability to convey and amplify the intensity of emotions, making them a cherished and enduring choice for meaningful connections, whether in the form of jewelry or as a gemstone. Rubies carry a timeless message of passion and love. I wonder why the ruby isn't the engagement ring stone instead of the diamond, because it's symbolic of love. I guess you could make it that, you can make it your personal.
We could have a whole conversation about drug cartels and, I mean, diamond cartels, but.
Yes, right. It used to not be diamonds. That was
Exactly.
a recent addition.
Very recent.
Oh, okay. We can have a podcast about that maybe.
Think
Uh,
diamonds are the ones.
It's just all the different places where you can unearth rubies. and it's part of the corundum species, which I found very fascinating. I never heard this before. That it gets its red color from chromium. The red of the ruby is the only color variety not found in sapphire. Also, like sapphire, significant ruby deposits have been found in Southeast Asia, Burma, now Myanmar was the main source, Eastern and Southern Africa, Middle East, as well as Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka, Australia, and China. So it's pretty wide piece of geography where you can find rubies. And one last little tidbit about rubies are thought to protect the wearer from negative entities and psychic attacks. So, it's got you covered. It's got your heart covered. It's got you protected from negative entities and psychic attacks. Everybody should be wearing rubies. And there you have just a little bit about the ruby stone. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Nancy. So appreciate that. Okay, well, we're gonna take a couple of minutes now, as we do. I'm gonna add myself and Cora into the spotlight so that we can kind of dig a little bit into the attribute of power. We're gonna have a conversation between the three of us. We're gonna invite comments, questions, thoughts in the chats, and we will open it up to further conversation. We're kind of intimate now, so I'm suspecting maybe we want to have. Okay, I'm changing the rules, so please tell me no if we don't think this is a good idea. I'm thinking that we'll have 20 minutes and then we'll invite Alice in, assuming that we don't have any other, and we'll have a little bit of conversation before we shut down for the art social.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. So listen, I'm hitting the start button and we're off to the races.
Am
So
I sharing? Am I
yes.
sharing? Let me pull that up. Put this down here. And can we all, oh wait, let me do slideshow mode.
There we go. Yeah.
See that? Yeah. Power as a spiritual quality. Take it away, Tamra.
Take it away, Tamara. You got the slides.
I do have the slides, but we're all part of this conversation.
Okay. Well, if I'm starting, I'm going to start with the question that I was asking, because that's why I was asking why I thought my question was coming up last.
It can. Well, this is, I just wanted to present it that this is what we're talking about, power
as a spiritual quality.
And other qualities as well.
Okay. So you want to walk us through the slides very quickly and then we'll continue the conversation?
Yeah. I mean, do we want to answer what is spiritual power?
Let's just name all the questions so we just throw it all on the table. Because
Okay.
I'd rather we not be sharing while we're conversing.
Right. Okay. So what is spiritual power? That's one question. Oh, I'm blocked. Can you see this?
I can see it.
Okay. Can you read that, please?
In what ways is the attribute of power, as reflected in the calendar, the same and different from the ideas of power in worldly affairs?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. And this one, are power and might synonymous? A lot of times we interchange power when we say mighty power. So yeah, so let's go back to the very first one. Yeah.
No, let's shut down and talk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank-
Actually, we lost Alice, so we can just talk.
Oh, okay. I did say she can stay the whole
Yeah. So so the question we started with, right? The question we started with was, what is spiritual power? I have a thought, and I don't want to over talk, but I was just so enamored of this of the prayer that you were reciting, Cora, where we're talking about, and what you said when you talked about stepping into that reality of being the broken winged bird. And I love that because when I think about spiritual power, I'm thinking of power that originates from the spiritual realm and not from anything of myself. And I relate it also to a quote that's in the long obligatory prayer of the Baha'i faith that says, I love in this moment, I love in this state, oh my God, to beg of thee all that is with thee, that I may magnify my poverty and manifest and magnify, that I may declare my, I don't know, anyway,
Demonstrate my
demonstrate my
poverty.
poverty and magnify thy
Magnify.
bounty and thy riches. But
Mhm.
this is the part that I love the most, right? And that I may declare my powerlessness and manifest thy power and thy might. And I always think to myself, yeah, that's what I want. Whatever kind of power I have, it's no match for what God has to offer. And so I'm happy to totally surrender any power that I've got in favor of God's power. And so when I think of that visual of this broken winged bird, it's at its weakest point, right? It's like the biggest power that a bird has is flight, and this one can't fly, but God can give it flight.
Yeah,
It's kind of huge.
yeah, yeah.
So
And I love how you identified the difference of power, external power from internal power, because that is also how I see spiritual power, is it's something outside of me. Now I know I can be empowered, but when I'm thinking about power as a spiritual quality, it is something outside of myself.
Mhm. Yeah, and spiritual power when and as a person who's just, trying to grow spiritually and understand and be detached from this world, when you hear things like my powerlessness, right? Because we live in a world of, being powerful, being empowered, and, all that kind of stuff. And, I'm praying about my powerlessness, but then understanding that that's allowing me to sort of be this clean palette, if you will, to be able to manifest, like it says, the power of God that is bestowed upon me. And I can't do that if I think I'm the one with the power. It's sort of it's in conflict, and that power that I'm manifesting is, divine power, it's guidance, it's everything. It ignites my intellect. It helps me connect with, all that God has to offer me. That's a very powerful thing. Like the prayer that I read was about, all the things that God can do for me, has done for me. That to me is powerful. um yeah, so spiritual power runs deep on so many levels.
Mhm.
so
And it,
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Cora. No, you go.
It also makes me think of that quote I learned as a young Baha'i child. It was ruse be ruse, cam be cam, little by little, day by day. And this was a quote from Abdu'l Baha, son of Prophet, founder of the Baha'i faith. And as a child, it felt like day by day, little by little, that's something I can do to take little bites towards this larger thing called power, because it was so big for me, I couldn't understand it. But little by little, day by day, I just absolutely loved that quote.
Yeah, and that's what the calendar does for us, right? You know, every day having us to focus on a virtue. Every month,
Yes,
the whole month for 19 days, we're surrounded by the energy of power, you know,
yes, yes.
coupled with what the day is, what the day of the week is, you know. So it's all encompassing, multi-layered um, growth and progress.
Good point. And I love the trifecta that we have going on today with the mercy of power, the sixth day within the month of power, the 13th month, and the day of independence, Friday. It's that I love that. I find on this day I can turn at any moment to one of those spiritual qualities to help me at that moment with that particular situation. Most of what I relied upon today was the mercy. Mercy of power. I love the day of mercy.
Yeah. You're mentioning all those attributes being active in a single day. And it reminds me of, we're talking about manifesting God's power. And when I think about that, what I also think about is, as Baha'is, we understand that our purpose in life is to acquire spiritual qualities. And of course, we're very lucky and grateful to have the body calendar that help us, guide us to focus our attention there. But I also do think about, I do think that that's a way of manifesting God's power, right? Because all of the attributes of God are how we know God. We can't know God directly, but we can know of God by way of the attributes of God. And we can step into that, right? Which is such a gift. But you have to actually step into it. You have to choose that walk. But we get that opportunity. And so, when we opened up the frame, when we opened up today's meeting, of course, I had the superheroes and the sparks happening all over the place. But that's how I think about things. I'm like, we take all of that in and we manifest all of that, Baha'u'llah says that they're already in us. He says, regard man as a mine rich in inestimable gems, right? Gems of inestimable value, and education alone can reveal them, right? And so we get to be in this ongoing educative process to constantly constantly be manifesting all of that, and then to your point that we can use it, that I now have access to this power, and I can put it to use in my life, so that as I'm navigating, the world, and whatever it's throwing at me, I've got some tools. I've got some powers that I can call on.
Yeah.
Right. And then to speak to your question directly about how is spiritual power different from the idea of power we see reflected in the political realm. I've been, when people are talking to me about the political scene right now, post-election, I've been talking about actually my own power and my own world, and how I can make decisions about what's going on around me, about who I'm interacting and how I am. And that is my guiding point, is being here now and not being hijacked by the fear machine that is out there. Granted, if something scary comes to my backyard or my neighborhood or my friends, I will then have a new now moment and a new response. But I do not need to stay in victim mode under the fear machine.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, power, power is kind of duplicitous, right? In the world that we live in. On one hand, I think when we hear the word power, we think of strength and aggressiveness. We think of almost overpowering or taking over, or you know, it can be um, benign, but for the most part, when we hear about power, it's usually in that very aggressive way. And politically, in this material world and this materialistic world, power is about status, it's about control, it's about who gets to decide what happens to other people from a certain platform. Um, and that's, in the overall general legislative governmental world, it's in individual corporations, it's, it trickles down into multi layers of our physical existence on this planet. Um, but I think that it's really interesting that power is also a divine attribute, to kind of help balance that out, and to know that you can be spiritually powerful, to sort of guard yourself against the political, um, physical world power. That's our shield.
Mhm.
You know, when I asked the question, I really was really keying in on both ends, right? Like concepts of worldly power. They are similar in ways to the divine attribute of power. They have their corollaries, and they're also extraordinarily different. And I've been listening to both of you and thinking, okay, but why? Why are they similar and different? Like what's that about? Right. So just to make the case about the similarities, right? Um, it's really a benefit to kind of understanding the writings to recognize that Baha'u'llah was revealing the writings in the context of a monarchy. Like that's a very helpful frame of reference to think about, because when he talks about servitude, it's a very courtly sense, right? Like I recognize my relationship to the king and I submit, right? So there's a degree of power because king is the king. And so when I'm dealing with you, I got to deal with understanding who is the king. And then Baha'u'llah talks about that the manifestation of God is actually the King of Kings. And so does the Bible say this, right? King of Kings, Lord of Lords. But to understand that concept is to understand what is a king in the first place, right? So that sense of worldly power is analogous in the divine sphere. But then you have this famous quote, everybody always says it, oh, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And you say, well, but God has absolute power and God is not corrupt. So what makes the difference? And I think it's this thing that we're talking about where we acquire all of the attributes of God. Like God's absolute power is also balanced with God's absolute justice and absolute mercy and absolute beauty. All of that is God, not just power.
Mhm.
And so when I think about it that way, I say, power in and of itself is profoundly useful. You get things done, right? You have the ability, power, the same word as empowerment. I have the ability to do stuff. But power requires all of the rest of the attributes around it. So this idea that we're sitting in the mercy of power,
Mhm.
that's kind of amazing, right?
Yeah. And,
All
and
hand in hand. You know what I mean?
mhm.
All of the virtues work hand in hand.
Mhm.
And I know we're kind of running out of time, but I just wanted to kind of jump to the question of might versus power, or might simultaneous? I mean, synonymous
Synonymous, yeah.
with power, because we use it, interchangeably, and sometimes we say mighty power, you know. Um, and I don't know if we want to share the quote. I don't know if we have time. Um, but oh, but what we had shared earlier about what the Baha'i teaching organization spoke about might. And I can share it just quickly because we didn't really go into it.
Okay.
Um, just to have a reference point. And I'm always fascinated with things like this when we're talking about words, because as a writer, I words have, they're so powerful and so transformative. And so here it is. We can use the attribute of might to empower our thoughts, volition, and actions. Mental and spiritual power, after all, can accomplish what sheer physical power simply cannot, right? So they're already making that distinction. It can influence the hearts and souls of others, so that this transformation of consciousness, in turn, can beneficially reconstruct the way people think, widen their horizons, and empower them to make a difference in this world through their own individual and collective contributions to society. That is the real effect of human power and might. And then at the end, they combine power and might. And I just wanted to say that might to me is sort of the thought and focus. Oh my goodness. Without on, but I want to get through this. Hey,
Keep
Karen.
going.
You. But
Um,
that's the focus of might, is the focus of the intentionality, and the power is the physical doing of that thing that you're focused on. So I think that's why the two of those things work hand in hand. Like, you can't do the thing you're focusing on, that might, if you don't have the power to do it.
Mm,
And the
Mm.
power doesn't come unless you have that physical focus and might on that.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
I had such an opposite viewpoint. For me, might has to do with strength, um, like the capacity to do. And power has to do with action.
Mhm.
Um,
I think we're saying the same thing. The
okay,
power is the action.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 That
And the
that
might is almost like the will, if you will.
okay. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's such an interesting thing, and I think it's a good question for us to ask, because as we saw on the cards, right, the writings take the same word, Qudrat, and sometimes, you know, translated as power, but also sometimes translates as might, and sometimes translates as mighty power.
Right, right, right.
And so, and so these are choices that the guardian is making, right? The guardian is looking at this in context and saying, in this context, this word means this, and in this context, this word means that. And so there's a clear differentiation. And even in a lot of the prayers, thy might and thy power,
Yeah.
it's explicitly two different things.
Different
Mhm.
thing. That's right.
Yeah.
So that's why
Mhm.
I thought it'd be interesting to just kind of talk and explore. It's interchangeable, and multi-used and duplicitous also, in a way.
Mhm. And I know we're out of time, but next time I would just add the power of justice in there, right? That's the difference in between the monarchy and divine power, or the king and divine power, God's power of justice. And Yeah, but that's a topic for another podcast.
Absolutely.
I think we did a good job discussing power. We have a new guest who arrived.
Yes,
Uh,
welcome,
Hey,
I,
Gary.
I apologize. I was in a men's meeting. I saw it and I was like, oh, and I just tried to log on where I could. I couldn't. And so I jumped in where I could and I apologize. I
Okay,
wanted to be here.
you don't have to apologize.
No
We're
need.
grateful that you were here for a little while. We're getting ready to shift gears
Okay.
and go into the arts social, which means we're going to stop recording. But before we do that, did you want to reflect at all on the spiritual attribute of power, which is the month that we are currently in?
For some of the most powerful things in the universe are done in silence.
Mm,
So power, I look at the power because men are fed this thing of power that it is this hard and many times obnoxious force. Power is gentle as well. So I'm embracing the power of vulnerability, the power of speaking the pain or whatever it is. So there's, power is not as abrasive as it is always presented. So I'm looking at power in a whole nother way.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Go ahead, Nancy.
No, I was just gonna say it's so true. Vulnerability. It touches us in such a human way. It touches our spirit when people are vulnerable because it tells us that they feel safe to do that with us, and then that allows us. It's a reciprocity kind of action that happens. And being vulnerable, especially for men, it is very difficult. I know, but it is really such a spiritual existence to be able to be vulnerable. And you're right, it's very powerful, Gary. I'm sorry, Tamara, what were you going to say?
No, I mean, you just triggered a whole different thought. So now I'm gonna say something else. I was just thinking about, again, the question of might. And I was just thinking about how much might you have to have in your inner reserves to be able to be vulnerable.
Yes.
mm,
Like it's actually requires a lot of strength to be able to be vulnerable.
mhm,
And but then from the standpoint of thinking about power, I liken it to magnets, right? Like kindness, right? We learned this in book 1, right? A kindly tongue is the lodestone, right? It means magnet of the hearts of men, right? That if we can express vulnerability, express kindness, that we attract, and attraction is a power.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm kind of fascinated right this minute, just reflecting on just how we navigate, and also as we started at the top of the conversation, how we manifest God's power. And Gary, you weren't here for that portion of the conversation, but one of the things that we were talking about is that the writings are really clear that the way we manifest God's power is by declaring our own powerlessness.
Yes.
Right? We step into, I'm the broken winged bird. That's what Cora brought to, right? We step into that so that God's power can take over.
Yes. The obligatory prayer. My powerlessness in thy might.
That's right.
mhm,
That's right.
mhm.
Yeah. Fantastic. All right. So we did not have any explicit instructions for the art social. With this, the recorded portion of the podcast will end, and we're going to share some arts. But for our audience that will be here after the fact, please share with us any artistic expression that you have on the subject of power, because we would love to see that and share it with us. So with that, though, I will at this point stop the recording.
Can I ask you a question? Can that be posted on our podcast? How would they share that with us?
That's a good question. Well, they have my email address because I email everybody. But yeah, we should probably have, we should think about that. We should think about, does the podcast have an email address?
Yeah.
So that's a question to ask. So, all right, we'll work on that. We're learning as we go.
Learning as we go.
And